Welcome back. Well, you know, we've had such a fabulous summer this year compared to last year's washout. We got rained out every single week. If things weren't being rained on, they were still drying out and frankly, everything was getting moldy and musty. I couldn't get anything done last year, so things just kind of laid stagnant, and I'm trying to catch up and pick up where I left off last year. So I haven't been around the camera and producing any videos. And also, too, I've been, taking some time with my family and going out boating, and we owe it to ourselves, especially at my age. I'm working on limited time, and when I'm in my 70s. So, pardon me for not being around that often. But today it's raining. Today it's been last night it started drizzling. Today and tomorrow it's going to be raining. So I have a chance to catch up on my videos. But look what I've got. This is a sweetheart of a gun that I just acquired. Let me tell you a little bit of a story first. In 1967, when I was in my youth, I went to the local Army and Navy store with my dad, and I was looking for a genuine varmint rifle, centerfire varmint rifle. I was sick and tired of trying to low crawl up to woodchucks out in the middle of this big farm field. I'd always get within about 115 yards, and the woodchuck would spot me and he'd go down. So I did get a few that way with my 22, but I decided I needed to get a centerfire chucking gun. So I remember distinctly there was a Sako-made Browning in 222 Remington Magnum, and because a lot of Browning rifles at the time were being made by Sako. In fact, even some Marlin rifles were marked with being made by Sako, bolt actions. They're fine guns. But I remember there was this gorgeous Browning, and I think it had a silver-colored bolt on it, bolt handle, and that was in 222 Remington Magnum, and I kind of liked that, just the idea of having that extra power. Don't know why I needed it, but I thought it was cool. And then there was a Sako Vixen, and some of you might call it Sako, but I'll call it Sako. That's common around my area. But there was a Sako Vixen in 222, and I remember looking at them both, and the price that they had for both, they were both used, and the dealer said, well, why don't you sit on it and think about it? He had his druthers. He preferred the 222 Vixen over the Browning, simply because it was a Sako-made rifle, and with their own markings. It wasn't a hybrid. And he also preferred the 222 for its accuracy. So we did that. My dad and I went home, and we thought it over, and my father put in his 2 cents worth. He thought that the Sako was the better way to go, just by virtue of its name. He talked to his buddy, who was a bench rush shooting fanatic, and he confirmed. He said, by all means, get the 222. You can't go wrong with the 222. He said the 222 Magnum is a great gun. He says you're only going to gain another 35 or 40 yards over the 222, but you're going to lose a little bit of that accuracy. And being the bench rush buff that he was, it was all about accuracy to him. So I never regretted laying down $130 for that gun. At the time, brand new, they were going about $160. And $130 was an awful lot of money for me to somehow cobble up. I think my dad loaned me about $50 or something until I could pay it back. And I traded in the 22 long rifle pump action Remington that I had, the model 572 that I had. I let that go gladly just to get that gun. So we came home with it the next day, and I was so delighted. I mean, especially the first day out on that farm. I popped 4 woodchucks. In fact, I got 3 of them at one sitting. One popped up. I thought it was the same woodchuck. One popped up. I shot him. This was from about 180 yards. One popped up. I shot him. Another one popped up. I shot him. Another one popped up. I shot him. I went over there. I had 3 dead woodchucks. So I'll never forget that. They were just bouncing up like crazy. I should have known, because they were coming up in different places on this big rock pile. But I fell in love with that gun. But after I came home from the service, I had, work was the first and foremost thing on my mind. I was dutifully employed, and I became a police officer and everything, and so my affection for that gun probably waned a little bit, and then it was the first gun that I decided to let go when I wanted to get a Ruger Red Label 20 gauge over and under. That was the stupidest move I ever made. I didn't, I wasn't thinking straight. The gun didn't fit me. I couldn't hit anything with it because the comb just did not sit right. It didn't have the right cast off. Everything about it was wrong. I couldn't hit anything with that gun. So that added to the pain when I realized what I had let go to, get that basically a lemon as far as I was concerned. And it hurt my father. Well, my father was devastated that when he found out that I had sold that gun. So that's a hole in my heart that I finally, I can't say I filled it. I mean, there's something sentimental about a gun that you let go. You really can't replace it. But here's a Sako 222 L461 action. L461 action, I'll explain a little bit. But that's their smallest size action, which is, since after that it was called the A1 action. That's their smallest action. Sako, they design each of their actions to specifically fit the length of the cartridge that's going to be used in it. In other words, they don't have just a short and a long action. They have a graduated set of actions that go up the line. I think that there's as many as 5, if I'm not mistaken. But this is the L461 action, followed after the L46 action, which came out in 1946 and was made until 1961. And you can see there's a progression that Sako used for their numbering system. So 1946 denoted the action, which was the Model 46, the L46 action. And then the adding of the 1 meant that it came out in 1961, although there were some L46 actions that were still being produced into 1962, as far as I understand. Now, I'm not a Sako club. I'm not one of the people who has high knowledge about Sako history and all that. But I have enough knowledge to get me by. My previous one had the Beaufort steel marking on the barrel, and that was owing to its era. I purchased it in 1967. I think it was made just a couple of years prior to that, if I'm not mistaken. This particular action is marked L461, but it does not have A1 on it. And according to some of the features on this gun, it should probably have A1 on it. And that owes to the styling of the bolt shroud. You can see the bolt shroud here has got this streamlined shroud. It's very nice, as opposed to having just the plain unshrouded bolt. And also the checkering. The checkering is of an era that does not necessarily match up with the dating of the A1 actions. So I would say someplace between the era of like 1979 to 1983 or so is when this gun was made. Owing to I can't find out much information about the bolt shroud, but I believe the bolt shroud came out sometime around 82 or 83. So that's probably about the era that this gun came out. And they dropped the Beaufort steel marking on the barrel, but Sako still uses high-grade steel. In fact, I believe that they continued to use Beaufort steel. There was a legal conflict about the putting that name on a barrel. So anyway, what I did discover when I purchased this gun, and I really got this for a sweetheart deal. Just about less than half of what these guns normally sell for. These guns are highly valued, and you can see it's in absolutely top-notch condition. The checkering is fabulous. There's very little wear on the checkering, and everything about it. It's just a great gun. And why I managed to find this great deal, I have no idea. But again, you know, there's some changes that denote that this was probably around the time that Garcia started importing them. It doesn't have the grip cap. It doesn't have the plastic grip cap with the white line. That's fine. I mean, you know, those were all collector's issues, and this one still has the white line spacer on the butt pad. So what I'm saying, and it doesn't have the herringbone checkering up front, which is another identifier. You can never tell by sling swivels because the fixed sling swivels that Sako used could easily be swapped out with this type of swivel stud. So, but everything about this gun is indeed Sako. Look at the butt pad. It's not worn. So it's a great gun. I think it was a very fortunate find, and I grabbed it up as soon as I saw it. The bluing is in excellent condition. Now, when taking the gun apart, I discovered, well, I knew as soon as I discovered this gun, it was a free-floated barrel. And it's nicely free-floated. It was done professionally. It was done by somebody who knows what they're doing. And I've done a lot of this work in my life. I've probably done 40 or 50 rifles, free-floating them for different people. And also, the gun has been professionally, if not professionally, it's been done professionally with a professional standard. The glass bedding of this gun, it's 2-point glass bedding at the front lug and at the rear. And it's just done nicely. Whoever did it knew exactly what they were doing, and they did a beautiful job. Now, you can see also everything about this gun is scaled to fit the 222 and 222 Remington Magnum and 223 that it later came out in. This has got the original heavy Sako rings, which are greatly prized. Collectors love to get a hold of these. But this is just a nice gun. They're very, very prized for their smoothness. Everything about them is just fabulous. So, why did I get this particular gun aside from the nostalgic part? Well, I wanted to do a little bit of testing, as a matter of fact. I'm not sure whether I'm going to keep a pair of 222s. You know, I don't need to have two guns for the same caliber. I can only shoot one at a time. This happens to be a Tikka T3, and you saw this gun before. If you've watched my channel, I use this to demonstrate how to glass bed a bolt-action rifle. Didn't really need it because this gun was shooting like a house of fire before, and you know, the glass bedding didn't improve the performance because you can't do much to improve on 1/4 of an inch of accuracy, and that's how this gun shoots. So what is a Tikka? You probably know that a Tikka is made by Sako. It's actually made in the same factory, using the same machinery or the same type of machinery. Everything about it is Sako right down the line. What's different about the Tikka is that the Tikka has just one action, rather than the Sako line having many different actions to fit particular cartridges. The Tikka is designed, it's engineered with just one length action, which can fit right up to the longest cartridges. I'm not sure if it can fit Magnum length cartridges. That I'm not sure of. But the difference lies in the way the magazine is blocked. This magazine, as you can see, has a follower which is sized appropriate to a 222 cartridge. So you know, you can size these magazines come sized for medium-sized cartridges such as a 308, or all the way up to the 3006 size cartridges, 270 and things like that. So they economized by being able to produce many different calibers using one model. It also has an extremely smooth action. The bolt is much simpler in design. Actually it's a little bit smoother and slicker than the L461 to some degree. I mean, I'll never compare them that way. It's very much the same. I think what it is, that bolt is so much bigger that gravity, it slides out by itself. That's why it feels a little bit slicker. It's really not slicker. It has gravity working for it because the bolt is so much heavier and bigger. So, but these are great guns. If you want a Sako and you can't afford a Sako, you can get a Sako just by buying a Tikka. That's the way these things are. They're fabulous for accuracy. They're very, very well made. They come with good, not great. I mean, we're not talking about high grade walnut here, but actually this walnut's in pretty nice. It's actually got some tiger stripe that you can see that in that grain. So they're not bad wood. Checkering is, I believe it's some sort of an impressed checkering rather than, it's stamped in checkering, but it's got a good grip to it. It's not like the rolled in checkering that Remington and Winchester used during the 60s. That horrible, in the 60s and 70s, that was horrible. So it's actually, although it has a bargain level of checkering on it, it's functional. It's very functional. It feels good. It's got a free-floated barrel from the factory. It's not glass bedded from the factory, but it's accurate from the factory. The bedding was probably done with CNC machinery, so it's very, very accurate. It just doesn't have that. It just doesn't have that glamour that comes with the Sako name. But aside from that, if you want a rifle that can shoot superbly, this is it. Let's pull them apart. Take the scopes off, that is, and weigh them up and see what the weight difference is and do some measuring, okay? Let's go over to the bench. Okay, let's unwind these scope rings. I love these Sako rings. They're magnificent design. They've streamlined them and they've made them lighter in recent years, but they're classic. I mean, these are they're just heavy duty, wonderful all steel rings. And that by the way, that's a loophole. It's a standard loophole 3 to 9. I believe it's a Vari X2. It's a good scope. And I would say that it's probably consistent with the era of of this gun, made about the same time. And so let's put this on the scale and see what it weighs. Guess it was on before. So with just bare naked, it weighs 6 pounds, 8.8 ounces. So just about 6.5 pounds. That's what the manufacturer claims, as a matter of fact. So we're going to put this rifle aside, and we'll weigh this Tikka. And this one weighs 6 pounds, 8.2 ounces. So despite the fact that it's got a longer action, it's actually somewhat lighter. Now let's take some measurements of its overall length and the barrel length and see how that compares. So measuring from the front of the barrel to the center of the buttstock, I've got 42 3/8 inch, 42 3/8. What does the Sako Vixen come up to? And to the center of the buttstock, I've got 42 and just a shy over 3/8, 42 3/8. So it's roughly 1/4 of an inch shorter than the Tikka, and the weight on the Vixen is just a tiny bit heavier. Of course, you've got a steel floor plate here. Things like that can make a difference. Even though this is a shorter action, you can see that there's a lot of meat in that action, especially in the top of the action where the scope rails are, and really only Sako made these big, huge, massive dovetails. You can see there's tremendous detailing in this gun. There's a lot of nice checkering. Everything about these guns are top quality. The bolt is just as nice as can be. See, look how nice and small that bolt face is. It's sized proportionally to the 222. It's just what the doctor ordered for such a small cartridge. And these, like I say, these rifles just shoot. I've never seen a Sako that wouldn't shoot. I've owned, well, this would be my let's see, my fifth Sako that I've owned, and they've all shot superbly. So I'm so delighted that I fell upon this rifle. This really was a treasure to find. To find a Sako of this vintage in this condition is difficult enough as it is. But to find one that's in such superb condition as this, that's again another issue. Again, I'm not a big collector fanatic as far as knowing all the ins and outs about the particular years. I've never known Sakos to be inaccurate. I have never known them to be average. They're just always spectacular shooters. I do believe that in the era that this gun was made, it was being made with a hammer-forged barrel. Sako was one of the first companies in the industry to make hammer-forged barrels. They're just glass smooth. Everything about it is so nice and pretty. What about the trigger on these guns? Well, this, again, it's a Sako trigger. It's just fantastic. Let me get my scale out. And I haven't adjusted this trigger. The trigger was magnificent just as it was. I believe the fact that it was glass bedded so nicely, and well, that breaks at 2.5 pounds. I think it'll do that all day long. £2.5 pounds right on the button. It just, it's just superb trigger, and it's just like glass, just like the glass rod breaking, they say. Let's try out this Tikka. This one here I adjusted down for my own liking. I believe that Sako can probably go down a little bit more if I wanted to, but 2.5 pounds is terrific. Don't really need to. Well, I got this one down to 1.5 pounds. This is crazy light. Yeah, 1.5 pounds. So, again, if you're looking for Sako quality in a Sako made rifle, but you can't afford the name, you can be proud to own a Tikka T3. The T3X now, I think, is what was replacing the T3. There are some changes. This bolt shroud is plastic on the newer ones. It's aluminum. The locking the lug that retains the action in the stock was upgraded to a different material. It's a steel lug versus aluminum. With a 222, it makes no difference at all. I mean, there's just no way that that's going to move, or get distorted with that light recoil. So, that's the story, and I'm sticking to it. I thank my Patreon donors. You're very, very loyal to stick with me, despite the fact that I haven't been around very often. But trust me, you're helping me out. You know, times are getting tough right now, and it's difficult to make ends meet. So I'm going to try to be around as much as I can. I can't say that I'm going to sacrifice a day outside doing the work that I have to get done before, you know, fall comes along, and then the snow falls, and you know, then I have to wait until next summer. So I have to get that work done and get things done. But whenever I can, I'm going to get out to the range with you and do some shooting. I'd like to shoot these for you, both of them at the range, and just see how they both compare. I have no idea how many rounds had been put through that Sako Vixen, but you know, 222 is a very mild cartridge that it runs at about 47,000 pounds of pressure. It's not a high pressure, high intensity cartridge, and it's always been kind on barrels. Bench rest shooters loved it. It set many records before the PPC came along. The PPC kind of took it off its throne, but the 222 never had any flies on it. It's always been a fantastic cartridge, designed by Mike Walker of Remington in 1950. Been around a long time. Been around for 74 years now, 75 years. So thanks for watching. Whatever you do, don't forget to subscribe. Hit that bell right now, and God bless.